Welcome, ladies and gentlemen and ladies. It's your boy LS3. Another week, another opportunity to be great and better yourselves. Before we get it popping, y'all already know. Let's hear that beat drop. Yes, welcome to Medicine Ball with your boy LS3 to be exact. And if you ain't in shape, at least your brain should be. Welcome to Medicine Ball, where we focus on giving your brain a six-pack. What does that mean, you may ask? It means we focus on working out your brain. We focus on working out how to change how you think, how you perceive things, how you deal with these adversities that are going to come and show up in life. Now, before I start, I am not a doctor, not a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, not a therapist. But I am, however, someone who has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder 1 for 15 years. And I have an interesting insight with mental health on both sides. Whether it's therapy, medications, or much more, I was forced to change the way that I live, think, perceive things, and act in order to live a more peaceful life. So whether you're one of the millions of Americans that are dealing with one of the many mental health illnesses, or you know someone who's diagnosed, or you could just use some hacks for this thing we call life, this is your family. You already know you could have been anywhere in the world today and you chose to rock with me. I appreciate that, and I never take it lightly. With no further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into this week's episode. That's right. Episode number 22. Here's to the old you. New year, old you. Let's get it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year. Welcome to a new year of Medicine Ball. A lot of new things going on. This is episode 22. 2 episodes out for the grand finale, episode 24. And I appreciate y'all rocking with me as always. Real quick before we get into this week's episode, I am available now on Instagram and Twitter with pages specifically dedicated to Medicine Ball. So you can follow both of those at Medicine Ball LS3. That's right, Medicine Ball, LS, and then the number 3. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. I'm posting everyday inspirational quotes, inspirational facts that are related to mental health illnesses, and just all around knowledge and pick-me-ups that you can use when you're going through this thing called life. So go follow me. And always, if you're listening to this right now, whether it be the Anchor app, the Spreaker app, FM podcast, if that's not what you use to normally listen to music, I am available on all platforms. So go on over and check me out on Spotify under Medicine Ball, and also can check me under Google Play, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and much more. I appreciate y'all support. Continue to follow me, man, and let's get right into this thing, all right? Again, Happy New Year, man, and getting right into that. You know, when it comes time for a new year, man, there's a lot of time to sit back and kind of look at what happened over the previous year, whether it be goals that you set or relationships that you wanted to better or your working situation or your livelihood, man. The year, at the end of the year, a lot can be a depressing time for most, man. And that's because we use that as a benchmark. And keep in mind as well that this is something that is only in our culture. If you're a U.S. citizen, not everyone celebrates the new year when we do. But in our culture, that is a time to look back. A lot of people post that they're going to be a new person. A lot of people post that they're no longer dealing with other people. A lot of people are hurt. A lot of people want to wrap up relationships and things that they think are not going to be best for them. And the new year marks a time frame kind of, or a marking of where people use that to get the courage to do things that they could have really been doing all along in the year. So we're going to reflect on it, man. And this podcast is a here's to the old you. Because here's the thing, right? I think that we spend too much time trying to recreate the people that we are instead of appreciating that people that we are and just picking and choosing spots to better ourselves. So instead of saying, hey, I'm a nice, loving person, let me focus on being more loving or how I want to share my love. It's usually like, hey, I'm a nice, loving person and I'm too loving to the wrong people. I don't want to deal with it. And we shouldn't take that attitude. Furthermore, we should always be continuing to look to better ourselves, whether it's our businesses, whether it's our relationships, our finances, all throughout the year. You know, too late we use this end of the year thing to bank on all of a sudden making some drastic change. And the truth be told is, if it was easy to make that change and have the discipline to do it just like that at the beginning of the year. And some things, you know, if used in the right way, can be used as a motivation, whether you want to work out or eat different or something like that can. But some things that are embedded in us and who make up the person that we are aren't that easy to change, man. So we're going to talk about the 3 R's when it comes to what you should be doing when you're going into this new year. And the first one we're going to get right into is the review or the reminisce. That's right, the review or the reminisce. Now, I put the reminisce on it because I want to be clear on this, man. This is not a time to judge what we did, if it was bad, if it was good, if it affected our relationship. It is not a time for that. This is simply a time just to look at the memorable moments that happened throughout the year. Now, ideally, you want to be doing this all the time. You want to be a thankful person. You want to be a person who's empathetic, a person who's loving. And realistically, throughout the year, we should be looking on that. But for the sake of what you're probably already used to, this is a time to review. Now, I want to give you guys a little bit of skill on how to do this because you might not know what it means. You might be like, well, what do you mean review or reminisce? But don't judge whether or not if it was bad or good. Memories and things that happen in our lives are still shots in our brain, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, whether it's you falling off your bike when you're 3 or learning how to ride a bike without no hands. It's still a memory that's ingrained. And what I want to do when we do this review or reminisce overall is allow you to slow down because too often we're focused on getting to the next platform, getting to the next level, accomplishing the next goal, getting over the next obstacle or adversity, and we don't even stop and take in and understand the journey. And me myself as well, I'm guilty as well of what's actually going on. So for starters, someone like me who does suffer from mind racing and the depression with my diagnosis of bipolar, sometimes it can be overwhelming. Now, when we're doing all of these things that allow you to, and right now we're going to focus on the review or reminisce part, it's important to know where you are. I always say that. It's important to know where you are in your own personal journey when it comes to figuring out how serious you want to get with yourself, how you want to change how you think, your perception, et cetera, okay? So review. So for instance, for me, I might just look at January and be like, man, what happened last year? And I'm talking about January 2019. I was in a tough situation where I was just recovering. And it's not something that's to be proud of, but it's just a memory, a thought, a blip, something that stood out among this journey over this just past year that we're looking out. And I might be like, okay, that was cool. Go straight to February. I'm not reflecting on what got me in that situation, what got me. No, we're just thinking about it. Maybe February, I can remember hanging out around Valentine's with somebody I like. Just think about that moment. Take that moment in. Slow down. Move to March, and et cetera, et cetera. And you want to work your way through. And remember, the key with this is to remember the moment, not the circumstances or surrounding the moment, what caused the moment, whether it's a moment you like or whatnot. It's just something that stood out, and you're taking time to address it mentally. Something that stood out to you that you just wanted to address. Hey, March. Maybe in March you remember that the birds were louder outside. It could be something just as simple as that, man. We just want to review. Just a review. Reminisce, man. Enjoy it. And I'll take it a step further. If it's something positive, and only if it's something positive, live in that moment for a second. Live in the moment for a second. We're not going to make this too complicated. Not going to make it too uncomfortable. We're just a simple review. You don't have to even necessarily break it down into months. Maybe it's something that wasn't meaningful that happened in January, February, and bam, something sticks out in March. Something sticks out in April, maybe. May and June was a little bit of quiet. I'm using this just to get you into the idea of reviewing the things that happen in your life without necessarily committing completely mentally to it so that it could be something that you remember, man. It could be something serious. Maybe you have a kid or a niece or a nephew who can't speak and they grinned at you for the first time and you saw that first little tooth in their mouth. Maybe it's your kid taking their first step or working hard to play all year to get on the basketball team and finally get in and score a bucket. Just remember it, man. Don't think about what got you there or anything. If it's a good time, live in that moment, man. Review, reminisce. This is very important to being able to slow down and enjoy the journey and take things for what they're worth. You don't want to be looking so far ahead towards the finish line or your goal line and forget the obstacles and the things that just touched you and that stood out so much that you'll remember them for the rest of your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Take a moment to remember that, man. This is going to get you in the idea of reviewing, all right? So as you review, and I recommend doing this in a situation where you can be by yourself. I if depending on who you are, I recommend some light music. Some people can get distracted by the words or the lyrics. If you're one of those people, throw some classical music on or some type of instrumental. Take your time to breathe. If you're a person who struggles with meditation or can't completely understand the benefits and what's good with meditation, guess what, man? You know what I'm about. I'm all about getting in little victories. Take this time that you're slowing your brain, not thinking about the crazy thing, and just simply remembering the things that happened to you this year. This is a form of meditation. You're controlling your thoughts and you're slowing down. It's two things that I'm tying into this, man. And again, this is the 3 R's, man. So I want you guys to just, you know, think on it. I don't want to do too much talking on it. And this is something you could definitely go back and take a look at. But reviewing and the reminiscing, and we're not diving deep in it mentally. Remember, don't start beating yourself up if it's not a good situation. If it's a great situation, live in that moment and keep it moving on to the next one. And just get a glimpse of how many things that you thought weren't important, or just keep in mind how many things that you already overlooked that when you go back and think of them, they were big to you at that time, man. Just review the things, because we're going to take that and we're going to build on it. All this stuff is something that probably happened in January of 2019, in February 2019, that right now at this moment don't even matter, but at that moment were very important and life-changing to you. Just kind of think about that, man. This is the first step on what we're going to do when it's, hey, here's to the old you, man. That's right, man. I'm giving y'all the 3 R's, and this is the first one, reviewing and reminiscing. So I'm going to leave y'all with that on this first one, man. I ain't going to get too heavy into it, man. I've been really bringing y'all along. Y'all been doing good with me, rocking with some of my longer podcasts, but that's the first R, review. We're going to go straight into the second R, spend a little bit more time on it after this beat, and that's reflect. Okay, so you reviewed, you just kind of reminisced, you didn't dive into it. Now it's time to get into it a little bit deeper. So you already know what it is, man. Medicine Ball with LS3. Welcome to this year. You should be excited, man. You should be excited every day that you wake up. But if this is something that, and you're one of those people who uses the new year as a milestone, man, by all means, use whatever you need to gain your momentum and keep things moving. We're going to go ahead and let you check this beat, and then we're going to get right back to you with part 2, podcast number 22. Here's to the new you. Check this beat, and we'll be right back. Yeah. Yes, y'all. Welcome back to Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. If you're in the shape at least your brain should be. Welcome back to Medicine Ball, where we focusing on giving your brain a 6-pack. That's right. What does that mean? That means working out your brain, working out your mental, the way that you view and perceive things, think and analyze things. Your brain is just like anything else, man. You got to continue to work it out in order to strengthen it and also build a new pattern and shape it in the way that you want to, man. So that's what we're focusing on here. And this is episode number 22. Here's to the old you. That's right. We're talking about wrapping up the year. Now, I know that this is the January 3rd, if you guys are hearing this. But relax, man. You know, it's cool. You should be reflecting and reviewing and making tough decisions at all times throughout the year, but I want to stick to what everybody in our culture is used to and show you how you can make the most of doing that, man. So we talked about reviewing, man, and I want to just kind of wrap it up. When you reviewed your 2019, if you're a movie, your review is just like the preview, right? Not even the joint that's on the commercial. You know how, like, if they show you a movie preview, the commercial previews can look real good, but it's nothing like that preview that you see when you go to watch a movie and they show the It's like that. Bam, just the impactful stuff. There's no information behind it, but the visual enough is enough to jar you into interest. And that's what the review was. That's why I told you not to dive into it. That was simply to jar your interest and get you interested in exercising your brain. That was pretty much a warm-up for the heavy lifting, which is part 2. The second R, reflection/reaction. So let's start with what a reflection is. And this is just layman's terms, man. This is just what we know. And I'm just speaking off my head. Don't hold me over the sword for it. But it's basically a mirror image, right? It's the throw. Like, so if we want to look at the definition, it says the throwing back of a body or surface of light, heat, sound without observing it. So that's the thing. You're about to observe it, and it's going to be yourself. So it's like a double entendre right there, a reflection. We're going to spend time to reflect on you looking at yourself, which is your reflection, all right? This is when the heavy lifting comes, man. This is something, and this is why I say this is stuff that you should be doing year round. So you don't get to a point to where it's December or January and you're trying to look back at major events in your life and how they affected you. And now you want to try to address them all at one time, which is tough. That is very tough. Whether you're a person who's dealing with a mental health illness or a normal person, that is a lot to do, man. And there is a book that I always shout out, which is the 12-week year, which shows you how instead of breaking down your goals and the way that you live into these 12 months, break it down into 12 weeks, because then that gives you multiple years over the time of one calendar year to review things and analyze them in a critical way, the same you would do at the end of the year. Like, I was just cracking a joke with somebody. They were like, I hate when people say put an S at the end of years when they say Happy New Year's. But I'm like, man, I mean that, because you should be breaking down multiple years within that one calendar year. But that's me, being kind of smart ahead of it. But anyway, it's time for reflection. So you bouncing back that energy or that image of yourself. So, some of the things that you thought about when you were reviewing, it's time to go back and take a look at those deeper. And especially if it's in a situation where you're deciding whether or not you want to talk with somebody, or whether or not you want to be a different person, or you want to start putting your foot down. Or maybe you don't want to be depressed every time something comes up. You want to take control of your life, in so many words, man. This is the important time. And this is when I tell people, man, it helps to write. You feel me? And I'm a person who doesn't like to write things down, but it does help to write some things out. Because remember, if you're listening to the Medicine Ball podcast and follow along, this will hopefully be the last time where you have to sit down. Now, I will say this. I do sometimes use the New Year's as a milestone to sometimes make big decisions. But chances are that's just like the end of my string. Like, it's something I've already been thinking about all the way through the year up until that point. And that's just sometimes people use it as courage. Let's be real. It's a way to use it as courage, especially if you're dealing with a significant other or nothing. It's just like, oh, new year, new me. So reflection is time. If there's something that was really bothering you or whatnot, it's a time for you to approach it. But this is how you got to look at it, right? You got to look at it as if something that you're bringing it into truly. Like, it's something that you truly want to address. Now, there are some scars and some situations that cut deep, and we won't be able to just at the end of the year be like, yo, this happened in February that brought up some stuff that happened in my childhood, but I'm going to let it go. I'm being realistic. It don't work like that. It doesn't work like that for me. It doesn't work like that for a majority of people out there. So that's not realistic. But it is realistic to look back and reflect on it, because now that you slowed down for, that review that you got into, now it's time to look at the plot of the movie, right? So when I say look at the plot, I mean as far as what's going on in front of you and what's going on right now. So it's not actually like we're reviewing it like we sat back and put the whole year together. No, we're going through each scene, each month, or each situation, good, bad, or ugly, that stood out to you, and we're going to look at it. And then we're going to relate that directly to ourselves. A couple of podcasts back, and I'm always talking about it, you got to write down something. Just like you have goals for finances and your relationship and your love life, you got to have personal goals when it comes to the person that you want to be, the person that you want to become. If you're somebody who's dealing with a mental health illness, how you want to control it moving forward, and how you're going to stand up and fight. So you have to relate directly the things that bothered you or stood out in your mind, good, bad, or ugly, to how it lines up with the person you want to be morally and going forward in your life. And again, we're not just using, when I say going forward in your life, I don't mean it as in new year, but just like as of this day. That's the other thing. We don't always have to take the new year to start something. If you want to start eating clean, you can start doing that joint January 4th, tomorrow. Happy New Year to you. And keep it moving. Let's not get caught up on what society says and even the calendar, man. We got to realize in bigger ways than one and expand ourselves that, the U.S. calendar is just one calendar. Hell, in some regions, you it's not even a new year yet. If you want to take it a step further, when you said Happy New Year's, chances are, depending on what side of the United States you're on, it wasn't New Year's for everybody at that moment. So let's not get stuck into this. Yo, I got to get into these New Year resolutions, which are just cop outs to try to focus yourself to do something that you should have been addressing all year. And I have been guilty of this in the past, but I move forward. And anytime I start putting something off, I'm like, why not start a streak right now? So, as far as it coming to the new you, and we're talking about reflecting on the things that happen, you got to relate them and deal with them in a way that's moving towards the person you want to be. So if you're a person who wants to be able to practice your patience and truly be a patient, understanding, empathetic person, and you had something go on in the year that you maybe didn't like, you got to look at it openly. What did you do? You have to be open to the idea that, hey, you handled that wrong, and that's just the person you are. Now, it's no justifications for just being a downright ass or a jerk or something to that nature. It's no justification for that. But if you were firm on something that you truly believed in from your heart and it matched up with your principles and your belief, you have to be open to the idea of your flaws, what you've done wrong, and how you can control you. And the reason I say let's put the onus on ourselves is you can only control yourself. You could be the nicest person in the world and you still can't control somebody saying F you after you say good day to you, sir. So we always want to try to, when we reflect, even if it's something negative, it's real easy to put the blame on someone else. But we have to look at ourselves so that we can start taking accountability and changing the things that we can, which is number one, ourselves and how we react to things and how we perceive things. So go through those same months. Hey, February, maybe you did go out with somebody you like, but it didn't work out. Let's look at it. Why didn't it work out? Maybe you need to work on your communication. Does that line up with the person you want to be and leave your legacy as? A cerebral, empathetic person who's amicable and easy to communicate with? Is that the person you want to be? All right, we got to look at something that you perceive as a failure and learn what you did wrong and what you can do better without putting the onus on another person. All right. When you reflect, when we go into this reflection, it's important to try to put as much onus on you so that you yourself can solve as much of these things as you can to move forward and get to a better place. Again, I said, let's be realistic. You got to always know where you're at as a person along your personal journey with knowing yourself and changing how you are. But if you want to go move forward, it's tough. And especially to my people out there who deal with mental health illnesses, I really wanted to reach out to them on the reflecting part. If you're just like me, somebody who can suffer from depression and anxiety, it's real easy, and this might go for everybody, to actually get depressed and get down and get sad. Because the end of the year often brings memories of people that we may have lost this year physically, who have no longer with us on this earth, people we can no longer talk to. The goals that we set the prior year and realized 12 months in, we failed. We didn't even obtain them. And here's the thing. Don't get down on yourself. Don't reflect. Don't turn it into a pity party. It's not an end of the year pity party. It's time to take the things that worked and use them, and the things that didn't work, throw them away. If you're repeatedly setting things, and I know weight is a big one, you got to change how you look at it. Me personally, I know with me, I began changing how I eat, a couple of months ago. But whatever your motivation is, my motivation personally started out as a joke. I used to watch The Walking Dead and be a diehard fan and always be like, yo, if ish hit the fan, can I take care of me and my people? Or I don't want to be the guy who can't run upstairs. I don't have any kids, but you don't want to be that guy who can't run upstairs and save your kids or get away from a wild bear or some shit if you need to. You know what I mean? So I just used it as a joke, and I just morphed that into being a true motivation for me changing how I ate, and it worked. So if you're a person who's dealing with extreme depression or anxiety or mental issues, or you feel like you're repeatedly failing, it's cool. Use this as your time to level up. The stuff that you do every year and the resolutions that you make, toss them joints out unless you dead ass serious about it. Toss them out. Do not set yourself up for failure. Again, this is a time to reflect and focus on what you can change and what you can do and work with that. It's not a time to think about the failures. If you didn't get that job and you're looking for a job, it's not a time to think about that. It's a time to think about the way you went about looking for that job and just changing your perception. Or maybe a job isn't for you. You should be a business owner and start your own business. Or maybe it's your blessing to help other people find jobs, and maybe you can figure out a way to make money off of that. Reflection is a chance to look at you, look at yourself, how you dealt with something, and hey, be like, yo, that's me right there who did that, and lining it up to be the person you want to be. If you want to be a person who doesn't panic or freak out every time some little adversity comes along, man, let's look that in the face. Over the course of the podcast, I talk about reflection a lot, and I say don't get too deep. If we want to do this New Year's thing and use it as a boost or a benchmark, this is the time to look deep within yourself and make some changes. And then going forward, we're not going to wait to the end of the year to do this. We're going to analyze these things as they come and go ahead and start knocking them out, because it can be a lot. Because guess what? That thing that you may be thinking about, it's going to be rough to be able to deal with that and now deal with something else. But that's what we use the benchmark for when we get into this New Year's resolution talk. And again, I'm cool with it. I use it for myself as just kind of a marking point in certain situations. But keep things in perspective, guys. We always have to be reflecting and bouncing that energy that we see of ourselves back off of ourselves and using it to our advantage, okay? So that's part 2, the second of the R's in this podcast number 22. Here's to the old you, and that's reflection. Remember, it depends on where you're at, but if you're using this as a benchmark, and who cares as it's January 3rd, take the time to do it now. We got to stop lining ourselves up with things that the society wants and use them to our advantage. It ain't a bill. When you're dealing with yourself, your mental health, and the person you want to be, you can do that joint on the 3rd. Trust me. The internal police is not coming to charge you a late fee because it's a few days into the year and maybe you didn't take time to do that. There's always no time like now, man. Whether it be a non-smoking streak or a non-drinking streak or a celibacy streak, whatever you got going on in your life, you can start that streak today, all right? Reflection. This is Medicine Ball, and I am LS3. Real quick, you guys could have been anywhere in the world and you chose to be with me. This is, again, episode number 22. Here's to the old you. Check this beat out, and we're going to be back to the third and final seg of this podcast, which is the reset. That's right. But it's not a starting over. It's just a clearing. You're still playing the same game. We're going to get into it. Check this beat. We're going to be right back with you. Medicine Ball. Yeah. Welcome back, Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. If you're in the shape, at least your brain should be. Welcome to a new year, Medicine Ball. We focusing on giving your brain a 6-pack, you already know. Welcome back, episode number 22. Here's to the old you. That's right, we talking about wrapping up 2019 and how we should be approaching 2020 and how to go about it, all right? First seg, we talking about reviewing your life. That was the preview to your movie. The second seg was reflecting. That was watching the movie and analyzing it as it goes along. And the third part is the reset. And the reset is equivalent to, man, you watch the movie and now you're analyzing all the things that happened in the movie and you're like, yo, now that makes sense. Oh, okay, I get it. So this is after you figured out the double cross and now you're looking back on all the stuff that you just reflect, and it is time to reset. Now, let me be clear. I know y'all probably like, LS3, you just said you shouldn't be trying to create a new you and be a new you at the start of the year. What are you talking about? I say a reset, man. If you've ever played a video game in your life, or even if you want to do your work stats that reset at the beginning of the month, that means that you're starting over, but it's the same game. You're not changing who you are. You're just changing how you approach and how to choose to deal with the person you want to be and how you want to deal with life. So when I say reset, you're just changing the person that you already are, but you're going to choose to deal with things in a different way. I didn't say you're starting a new game. I didn't say you're taking the disc out and let's just use video games, man. If you're a woman, and I hope you can rock with me. I hope you got a brother or a son or something, or a husband or something that plays video games, man. If he play NBA 2K and you tell that man, like, yo, I just deleted your my player, I reset your my player, my man's gonna go make another my player. Now they gonna be upset, but it's the same game. It's still NBA 2K20. You just starting over within the parameters of the same game. So you're not changing the person you are. Hypothetically, because I know some folks play 22K, NBA 2K, and they're like, man, technically you is changing. You could be a small forward or a dominating center, a playmaking sharpshooter, man. Come on, man. For the sake of what we're talking about, you're not changing who you are. You're just bettering yourself. And you're choosing to deal with within a way that's going to help you get to the person that you want to be, the person that you want to leave your legacy as. Now, I will say this. If you're writing down the person that you want to be and you know you got a short temper, you don't have no patience, and you could be rude, and the person that you want to leave your legacy as and live your principles by is a patient, kind, empathetic person, you got a long way to go. Yeah, you need to restart. You need to play a whole new different game, brother, because it's something not lining up deep within you if you're a person who's the complete opposite of what you want to be. But even with that, I try not to judge because everybody battling their own battle, but that's a whole nother story. But it's time for the reset, man. So what is the reset, man? I just explained it to you, but we're going to take it a second deeper. So all that stuff that you just reflected on and the things that you reflected on, how could you go back and do those and have it line up with being a person that you're okay with and understanding each morning? If you're an impatient person, but you want to be a little bit more patient, and maybe you were dealing with a woman or a man, and they did some things that agitated you, based on who you say you want to be, this person that you want to build towards. If you're a person going through depression, you want to get out of these slumps quicker, which is going to require you to be able to analyze things differently so you can overcome them. How would you go back and deal with these things that stuck out in your review that you reflected on? And if you could restart doing them the way that you're lining up to be a person that's going to be okay for you, and how would you deal with these situations? It doesn't take much effort. And again, hopefully this will be the last year where you have to sit down. And again, every year it's a dope benchmark. You feel what I'm saying? But technically, you could use a benchmark at the beginning of the week. You can start every week and be like, okay, it's a new week. It's a new me. Guess what? You can do it every day. But I'm not gonna be too hard on y'all on this episode. I'm not gonna be too hard on y'all episode. We sticking with the new year joint, right? Listen, whatever works, reset it. Now let's deal with things in a way that's gonna line up with the person that we want to be. If we want to be a person who is able to look at obstacles as things that can actually be power-ups to help us to overcome and see the long course, okay, that relationship where maybe I wasn't as caring as I was supposed to be. You want to truly be a caring and a patient person? How could you go back and handle that? And going forward, make it your business to handle that situation and all similar situations in the same fashion moving forward. All right? It's a reset. There's nothing too big to the reset. You just watched your movie and now you're at the end of the movie. You reflect and you're like, man, now I get the double cross. Yo, I still understand if I truly want to be an empathetic person. Maybe I need to shut up. Hey, maybe I need to understand that, hey, if this person feels like they got to clear this off their chest, if that's going to heal them, let me be quiet and let them do that. And since I'm a person who's thinking in a more elevated fashion, I'll deal with my own things in a way that I know I can deal with them and still be happy. Let's be that different person, man. Relationships is really, really big, man. And I just want to leave y'all with this. And then we're off of the reset now, okay? Because the reset wasn't nothing. I'm not, y'all been rocking with me. My last two podcasts have had a lot of information in them. They've been an hour long. I'm not going to kill y'all this week. You know what I'm saying? But look, listen. We offer the reset, which is the final part of the 3 R's of, here's to the old you. But let's go to healing real quick because I had a talk with a good friend. And when I tell you this was a good friend, she is a good friend still to this day. Like my ride or die, man. Like it was days I was going to die as a bachelor. And this person was like making me, what the heck was that joint called, man? Oh, now it's gonna bother me, man. It's like some kind of like with ground beef, corn, and mashed potato, shepherd's pie, making me shepherd's pie. I'm the godfather of this person's dog, and with my real friendships and the people who I associate with on the deeper level, I will always love them because this is a person who I have completely, in a way, disappeared on for the better half of a year, right? But as I explained to her, and we had many of great talks, man, as I explained to her, like, yo, my love for you will always be the same. I always got you. I've just been getting myself together, and me not talking to you, I still got your back the same way. And we were able to fall right back into our bonding and whatnot. And we started talking about healing. And there's somebody in her life that did her wrong. And long story short, was doing a lot to reach out and kind of try to speak their piece and kind of, in their eyes, settle it. But in my homegirl's eyes, who's a logical person, and I feel her totally, like, it can be settled, first of all, with some finances being evened out. But I'm not going to get too much into this story. But what I had to tell her was, like, yo, when it comes to dealing with other people, if you're ever in a situation where you have an opportunity to heal somebody, and you're of a mental aptitude and capacity to heal that person and understand that maybe they don't understand it in the way that you do, and just let it go. And I'm not saying forgive them or just go back to being buddy buddy or whatnot, but sometimes just hearing them out without trying to necessarily speak your piece. And again, as long as they're not being disrespectful, if they just want to say they're apologizing and they're not attacking you, sometimes hearing them can help them sleep better at night. And so a lot of times when I do get into those type of situations, I realize, and I think we should all realize, anytime you're of a mental capacity to forgive someone and even hear them out and give them the ability to heal by saying their piece, if it's going to help them sleep at night, we need to do that, man. And I think that, with it being the end of the year and all of these relationships and whatnot, and there's stuff that you want to end and whatnot, and that person maybe has one more last thing to say, as long as it's not disrespectful. If we're listening to Medicine Ball, we're exercising our mental, man. And we need to take these opportunities to honestly heal others and use it within our mental capacity and find it within ourselves to deal with the internal conflict of them not understanding within our own minds. The responsibility, once you become a more enlightened, focused, thinking individual, honestly does fall on your shoulders. And I wrestle with this every day. And it's just the way it is, man. And even if you're somebody who's dealing with a mental health issue, you got to be one of the most courageous and one of the most intelligent individuals possible in order to deal with it. Because not only do you have to have the mental capacity to understand your mental illness and what's going on, you have to have the mental capacity to understand that person who just made a slick comment about bipolar or schizophrenia, they don't mean no harm by it. And maybe they don't even have the mental capacity to be held accountable for it. And you're ultimately just going to frustrate yourself more trying to explain it to them. So I always say, man, when you're dealing with the mental health illness and maybe you can't get mad all the time, because then people are going to say it's because, oh, there's that bipolar. Or maybe you can't get frustrated or express yourself in a way that may be catered, say, to your sickness or your disease. That, again, to piggyback on that, is why we got to come together as a group and force people to talk about it if we truly want them to understand. If there's not enough of us dealing with the mental health issue that's willing to speak up, people will never take it upon themselves to be accountable to understand what we're going through. But ultimately, if you have the mental capacity to allow somebody to speak to you, and them speaking to you will heal them, do that, man. And I promise you, it will make you a more empathetic person, man. So that was just a little bit of tidbit, a little bit of extra on what we got going today. Podcast 22. Here's to the old you. We're not reinventing ourselves. We're bettering ourselves, accepting the person we are, and finding out how to best deal with our personalities and our traits to be more successful and live a more peaceful life, all right? Remember, follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Medicine Ball LS3. Medicine Ball LS and the number 3. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I do motivational posts every day, inspirational posts, quotes, facts, tidbits. I also retweet other people who are in the mental health industry who I am starting to follow. And man, I'm going to be honest with you. It's not big yet, you guys, but I definitely know somebody's out there listening because my numbers grow every day. I get inboxes every day, and I appreciate y'all for that. Yo, go like, subscribe, and share this podcast. This is another week, another new year of Medicine Ball, man. I'm excited. If you rocking with me, welcome to the family. If you've been here, you already know. Much love to you. Remember, man, always work out your brain so we can change the way that we think and perceive things so that we can live in a more peaceful way, all right? You already know. Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. You got this. I love y'all. Until next week, check this beat. I'm out.